Republican Tea Party diva Bachmann attacks Ron Paul. In the latest debate, Bachmann said that Ron Paul is going to put us in danger. Why? Because he doesn't want to attack Iran. And she said that we got to go after Iran because if we don't, one of our cities could blow up. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Let's get to the exact quote out of the story. The fabrication that Iran will nuke Israel is gleaned from a mistranslation of an Ahmadinejad speech. In fact, Ahmadinejad said the regime occupying the holy city of Jerusalem will, quote, vanish from the page of Times. He did not say that Iran will wipe Israel off the map. He didn't even mention Israel by name. This is from an InfoWars article. But even though he didn't say that, this is the justification for candidates like Bachmann to go after Ron Paul for not attacking Iran. Ron Paul just wants to keep us out of these conflicts, bring our troops home, and enforce the Constitution, which requires a congressional declaration of war before we engage in these military acts of aggression against other countries. Hasn't Ron Paul been doing great in the recent debates? Just lighten it up with the truth about freedom and liberty and the Constitution. It's great. Even his opponents are now acknowledging how well Ron Paul is doing in the debates. I have written a commentary, an editorial, about the NDAA. I felt so strongly about this, and I wanted to bring you this special commentary. And we don't use teleprompters here on InfoWars Nightly News, so I'm going to be reading this to you on paper. This is word for word exactly as I wanted you to hear it, so please bear with me as I bring you this editorial. I hope you agree it's a strong commentary against those who would support this NDAA. And here it is. With the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act, America has set a dark course down a path that can only lead to its downfall. Absent the natural law rights granted to the people by our Creator, and now subjected to secret military kidnappings, detainment, torture, and assassinations by our own government, we the people are seen only as subservient assets to a system of such moral and financial corruption that it screams out for abolishment. If we are judged by the government we keep, then in the passage of this NDAA, we have failed at our most fundamental task, to refresh the tree of liberty from time to time, not with the blood of patriots and tyrants, but with the wisdom and the foresight to avoid such bloodshed. This moral failure will haunt us for years to come, and it will curse upon the hands of those who stood silently and said nothing the blood of their fellow Americans who will die at the hands of the tyrants, emboldened and empowered by the wickedness of this NDAA. Those who voted for it and who signed it have now placed a spiritual debt upon their souls, not merely for their conscious betrayal of the people, but for their contempt for the divine Creator from which these natural law rights eternally spring. Even in a violent popular uprising, the theoretical act of sentencing these tyrants to death and carrying out those sentences in the name of justice pales in comparison to the judgment awaiting them beyond this life. In this outrageous act of betrayal, they are unleashing shockwaves of evil, rippling, tearing through the fabric of our nation and through our hearts. They have betrayed us. They have sold us down the road of tyranny. And they absolutely will not stop until and unless we make them stop. Tonight, I pray that Americans shall find the courage and the self-worth to reject this betrayal of our fundamental freedoms, and I pray that we the people grant these ignorant lawmakers who would so carelessly unleash this tyranny upon us all a unique opportunity to reconsider their actions in isolation, away from society, behind bars. At this dawn of a new era of history in America, prison time is perhaps the most merciful option we can possibly grant these traitors. May God have mercy upon their souls, and may the people abandon any thoughts of violent vengeance and instead find it in their hearts to respect the rule of law, even against those who refuse to. Today, we follow in the footsteps of great men who gave us a framework for liberty and an imperfect system, but a workable system for justice. May our own footsteps follow gently in their shadows, and may they lead us to the wisdom to find our way through the storm of tyranny and into the light of liberty. This is Mike Adams for InfoWars Nightly News.